The Galactic Empire's envoy arrived in Earth's orbit without warning, their massive golden dreadnought blotting out the stars as it cast its shadow over the blue planet below. From this vessel, a message was broadcast to every corner of Earth in perfect, polished English, though the voice carried a tone of disdain and arrogance. "People of Earth," the envoy began, its holographic form appearing above cities and screens worldwide. It resembled an insectoid creature, its segmented body shimmering with iridescent plating. Its many eyes glowed with cold superiority. "You stand before the might of the Galactic Empire, the sovereign rulers of over 1,000 star systems. Your world has been observed and deemed ripe for annexation." The creature's mandibles clicked as it continued. "You will kneel before the Empire, relinquish your independence, and submit to our laws. In return, you will be granted a place within our hierarchy, a chance to serve and benefit from the greatness of our civilization. Refusal, however," it paused for dramatic effect, its tone growing sharper, "will result in your swift and total annihilation." The ultimatum was met with stunned silence across Earth. Humanity had always speculated about alien life, but to be confronted so suddenly, and so arrogantly, felt surreal. The envoy's hologram scanned the silent faces of humanity and clicked in mock amusement. "You have one galactic cycle to decide. Resist, and we will burn your world to ash." With that, the hologram vanished, leaving behind an ominous void of uncertainty. In the hours that followed, Earth's governments scrambled to respond. Emergency meetings were held in secret bunkers, where the leaders of nations gathered to debate their options. Publicly, citizens were told to remain calm, but whispers of fear spread like wildfire. Could humanity really survive against a force so vast, so technologically advanced? While politicians and strategists argued over diplomacy versus defiance, a quieter but more significant movement began in the shadows. Buried deep beneath the deserts, oceans, and mountains of Earth, humanity's hidden strengths began to stir. Dr. Elena Zhang, head of Project Aegis, stood in a vast underground facility, her heart pounding as she watched technicians power up systems that had been dormant for decades. In front of her, an enormous ship, sleek and black as night, hummed to life. This was humanity's answer to the Galactic Empire, a fleet built in secret using technologies reverse-engineered from alien artifacts collected over the years. "It's finally time," Elena murmured, her voice carrying a mix of dread and determination. "We always knew this day might come." Across the planet, similar scenes played out. Soldiers were mobilized, scientists prepared weapons of unimaginable power, and leaders sent coded messages to potential allies beyond Earth. Humanity, underestimated by the Empire, had been preparing for this moment in silence. "We will not kneel," declared General Amir Hassan during an emergency broadcast to his troops. "Let them come. Let them try." As the clock ticked down on the Empire's ultimatum, humanity's resolve hardened. If the Empire expected submission, they would soon learn that Earth was not a world that bowed. It was a world that fought. Far from the prying eyes of the Galactic Empire, the true strength of humanity had been hidden for decades. Beneath the surface of Earth and scattered across the moons and planets of the Sol system, humanity's greatest minds and most ambitious projects have been quietly preparing for this very moment. Deep within the deserts of Nevada, a massive underground base buzzed with activity. Rows of sleek, black ships lined the hangar, their surfaces absorbing light like voids in the fabric of reality. Each ship was a marvel of engineering, blending human ingenuity with reverse-engineered alien technology. The engines hummed with anti-gravity propulsion, and their sleek frames were equipped with energy shields once thought to exist only in science fiction. Dr. Elena Zhang, the lead scientist of Project Aegis, stood at the center of the chaos. Her sharp eyes scanned the streams of data on a holographic interface as technicians rushed to finalize preparations. She had dedicated her life to unlocking the secrets of the alien relics found on Earth over the past century. Fragments of probes, shattered ships, and strange materials left behind by ancient visitors. What the Galactic Empire didn't know was that humanity had been learning from these remnants, building weapons and ships that could rival even their advanced fleets. "Elena," a voice called, breaking her focus. It was Captain Samuel Hayes, the leader of Earth's newly formed Interstellar Defense Force. His square jaw and steady gaze carried the weight of a man who had seen his share of battles, though none against an enemy like this. "Are we ready?" She hesitated for only a moment. "The ships are operational. The Eclipse drives are stable, and our new weapon systems are calibrated. But readiness isn't just about technology, Captain. Do we have the will to use them?" Samuel's expression hardened. "After what the Empire threatened, there's no question. They won't find Earth so easy to conquer." Across the system, other secret projects were coming online. On the dark side of the moon, enormous railguns capable of firing projectiles at near-light speeds were calibrated. On Mars, orbital platforms armed with directed energy weapons powered up. Even the asteroid belt had been turned into a minefield, its countless rocks rigged with explosive charges that could obliterate enemy ships. Meanwhile, Earth's greatest secret rested in the cold depths of Jupiter's orbit. The Daedalus, humanity's first true warship, floated silently, its surface bristling with experimental weaponry. Designed to be both a command center and a weapon of last resort, the Daedalus was equipped with humanity's deadliest invention, the Void Lance, a beam of energy capable of ripping through matter and shielding alike. Elena stood before a monitor showing the Sol system. The Empire's Vanguard fleet had already begun its approach, glowing dots on the outer edges of the display. "Let them come," she whispered. "They think we're weak. They think we're unprepared. They have no idea what's waiting for them." In every corner of the system, humanity's message was clear. The Empire had picked the wrong species to threaten. The Galactic Empire's fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system with all the majesty and arrogance of a conquering force. Their dreadnoughts, massive and gleaming, loomed in the void of space. The lead ship, Supremacy, was 100 kilometers long, its surface covered in vast gun turrets, shimmering shields, and powerful gravity generators. It sent a message to Earth's leaders, demanding their immediate surrender. "We are here to claim your world," the message echoed. "You have one galactic cycle to submit, or face the consequences." At first, humanity's response was silence. The Empire expected Earth's leaders to fold in fear, but they were wrong. Behind the scenes, a plan had already been set into motion. General Emir Hassan stood at the helm of Earth's defense fleet, staring at the distant stars through the massive window of his command ship. His crew, trained in secrecy, was ready. The ships of Earth were hidden in plain sight. Stealth fighters disguised as ordinary space debris and mining equipment, hidden in the asteroid belt, waiting for the signal. Captain Samuel Hayes, aboard the Venator, Earth's flagship, spoke quietly into his comms. "Initiate Phase 1. Suddenly, the Sol system erupted into chaos. From the asteroid belt, hundreds of cloaked ships burst into action, streaking toward the Empire's approaching fleet. These were the Terran stealth drones, each one equipped with devastating EMP bombs and antimatter missiles. Their engines, powered by newly developed fusion drives, propelled them at speeds the Empire had not anticipated. The first wave struck without warning. The Empire's lead ship, Supremacy, was caught completely off guard as a barrage of EMP waves hit its shields, weakening their power grids. For a brief moment, its vast size became a disadvantage as the ship's systems flickered. In that instant, the drones attacked. Explosions rocked the Empire's vessels. The drones, maneuvering with incredible precision, released antimatter bombs, which tore into the Empire's warships, disintegrating them with devastating effect. The Supremacy was forced to activate its emergency shielding, but it was too late. A direct hit from an antimatter missile struck its port side, sending it spiraling into the dark void. Yet the Empire retaliated with a fury unmatched. Their fleet, though momentarily stunned, regrouped quickly. Massive energy beams lanced out from their ships, vaporizing several Terran drones before they could reach their targets. But Earth wasn't finished. As the battle raged, a second wave of ships emerged from hidden bases on Mars and the Moon. These were the human warships, sleek, agile, and equipped with technology the Empire had never encountered. The Zephyr, Earth's most advanced warship, emerged from its moon base, its engines flaring as it sliced through space like a blade. The Zephyr and its sister ships engaged the Empire's forces with lethal precision. Each strike from their plasma cannons hit with unyielding force, while the human ships evaded counterattacks with expert maneuvers. They weren't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for their homes, their families, and their right to remain free. For the first time in galactic history, the Empire faced true resistance. Despite their vast numbers, they found themselves struggling against a foe they had underestimated. The cost was high, but humanity had delivered a devastating blow. The Empire's fleet retreated, the shattered remains of their ships drifting through space. Earth had proven one thing: they would not bow. The first strike was theirs, and the galaxy would soon know that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. The Galactic Empire was not one to accept failure. The first strike had shaken their confidence, but their response was swift, ruthless, and unforgiving. The news of the retreat spread quickly across the Empire, and an emergency council was called. The Empire's leaders, a council of alien overlords, debated furiously about how to deal with the insignificant humans who had dared to defy them. Earth's response was unexpected. One of the leaders, a towering reptilian being named Lord Varkesh, said, "But their tactics were primitive. They are not a threat." His eyes narrowed with disdain. "We will crush them." "I disagree." Another member of the council, an insectoid general named Zithar, spoke up. "These humans have something we did not expect: coordination, creativity, and an unyielding spirit. They fought with desperation and strategy. We cannot underestimate them again." A third voice, the cold, calculating voice of Supreme Commander Kalar, echoed across the room. "We must act decisively. Send the full fleet. And this time, we will not stop until their world is nothing but ashes." The decision was made. The Empire would send a fleet larger than anything Earth had ever seen, an armada of warships that could burn entire planets if necessary. The Empire would not be made a fool of by such a lesser species. Back on Earth, the shock of the first victory had not yet worn off. The celebrations were brief, for everyone knew the fight was far from over. The Empire was not one to forgive a slap to its pride. General Amir Hassan paced back and forth in the command center of Earth's military headquarters, his face grim. "They're coming," he said, his voice tight with tension. "And they'll come in force." Dr. Elena Zhang stood at his side, her expression just as serious. "We've barely made a dent in their fleet. If we're going to survive, we need more time to prepare." And prepare they did. Humanity's resources were spread thin, but the will to win was undeniable. Across Earth, the population rallied like never before. Engineers and scientists worked around the clock, perfecting their weapons, enhancing their ships, and ensuring that their remaining forces were ready for the next wave. Captain Samuel Hayes stood on the bridge of the Venator, looking out at the stars. He knew what was coming. "We can't fight them alone," he said to his crew. "It's time to reach out." Humanity's desperation turned into determination. Using the quiet, encrypted channels they had established with rebel alien factions and those oppressed by the Empire, Earth sent out a call for help. "We're not the only ones they've hurt," Captain Hayes said. "There are others out there who want to see the Empire fall. We need their strength, their knowledge, and their ships." Across the galaxy, ships began to move. Disgruntled species, those who had suffered under the Empire's rule, began to respond. The rebellion had begun. The Galactic Empire's council was confident their fleet would crush the humans, but they had no idea that humanity's defiance had already sparked a fire among other species. The resistance was growing. And the next battle would be one unlike any the Empire had faced before. Humanity, with its newfound allies, was no longer fighting alone. The war was far from over, but Earth had made its mark. And now, the galaxy would have to decide. Would they kneel to the Empire, or would they stand with humanity in the fight for freedom? The vastness of space could be a cold and lonely place, but it was also a perfect battlefield for those who had the courage to fight. The Galactic Empire had long dominated the Rim worlds, a collection of planets on the outer edge of the galaxy. These worlds were rich in resources, but had long been under the Empire's iron grip. However, with the Empire's threat to Earth spreading, cracks began to appear in their control. The rebellion was gaining momentum. From the heart of Earth's resistance, a plan began to form, a plan that would turn the tide of the war. The Empire's next strike would target the Rim worlds, and Earth, now allied with several rebellious species, saw an opportunity. If they could disrupt the Empire's supply lines in the Rim, they could delay the next full-scale invasion of Earth. General Emir Hassan knew the stakes. He stood on the bridge of the Venator, gazing out at the stars, his mind racing with the details of the operation. "This is our chance," he said to his officers. "If we can break the Empire's control over the Rim, they'll have to divert resources. It will buy us the time we need to strike again." The operation was codenamed Eclipse, a strike aimed at crippling the Empire's hold over the Rim by cutting off their primary trade routes and military bases. It was a risky move, but humanity had nothing left to lose. The first part of the plan was deceptively simple: draw the Empire's fleet into an ambush. Captain Samuel Hayes was assigned to lead the strike. "We're not fighting to win just yet," Hayes explained to his crew. "We're fighting to create chaos. Disrupt their forces, scatter them. If we're lucky, we might even take out one of their flagship vessels." A fleet of stealth ships, composed of human and rebel forces, was gathered in secret on the outskirts of the Rim. They were a mix of sleek warships and low-profile fighters designed to blend into the void of space. Their mission: to lure the Empire's forces into a trap where they would be outnumbered and outgunned. The first move came without warning. A small flotilla of Terran stealth ships, masquerading as a merchant convoy, made its way toward one of the Empire's supply stations. The station, tucked deep within an asteroid field, was a critical refueling and resupply point for the Empire's Rim fleet. It seemed like an easy target. As expected, the Empire took the bait. A task force was sent to intercept and capture the convoy. But as the Empire's fleet approached, they found themselves surrounded by a barrage of energy beams and EMP blasts. The Terran ships, hidden within the asteroid field, opened fire with precision strikes. The battle that ensued was chaos. Explosions lit up the blackness of space as the Empire's ships scrambled to respond. The Terran fleet, aided by their rebel allies, maneuvered through the field with incredible agility, striking swiftly before disappearing again into the shadows. It was a war of attrition, where every enemy ship lost added more confusion to the Empire's ranks. Despite their superior numbers, the Empire was caught off guard. The battle raged for hours, and the cost was high on both sides. But humanity's surprise tactics and the support of the rebel fleet began to take its toll. The Empire's losses mounted as their fleet struggled to regroup. By the time reinforcements arrived, the damage was done. The battle ended with a decisive blow to the Empire's command structure in the Rim. Several key vessels were destroyed, including a flagship that had long served as the backbone of the Empire's presence in the region. With their forces scattered and disorganized, the Empire's grip on the Rim began to slip. Humanity had struck hard and fast. The Empire had suffered a significant loss, and the galaxy was starting to take notice. The Battle of the Rim would go down in history as the first real victory in the war, a symbol of humanity's resilience, and the beginning of the end for the Empire's reign. The Battle of the Rim had dealt the Galactic Empire a heavy blow, but it was only the beginning. The Empire's response was swift and brutal. Within weeks, they had rallied their remaining forces and began pushing back. But humanity and their allies had already made one key discovery, something the Empire had desperately tried to keep hidden. In a series of classified missions, Earth's top scientists, along with their rebel allies, had uncovered the Empire's most vulnerable secret, the Dyson spheres. These massive artificial constructs had been built around the stars of the Empire's core systems. Their purpose was to harness the energy of entire suns, supplying the Empire with nearly limitless power. The Empire had always used this energy to fuel their massive fleets, advanced weapons, and unyielding control over their vast territories. But in the wrong hands, these Dyson spheres could also be their greatest weakness. Dr. Elena Jung, who had been working tirelessly alongside her team to understand this newfound power, finally spoke to General Amir Hassan about their discovery. "General," she began, her voice steady but filled with urgency, "these Dyson spheres are the heart of the Empire's might. If we destroy them, we can cripple their entire fleet. They'll be unable to wage war, unable to sustain their hold on any system. But the cost will be high. These structures are heavily guarded. The slightest mistake could cost us everything." Amur stood silently for a moment, his face grim. He knew the risk. To challenge the Empire at its core was dangerous beyond measure. But this was their chance. If humanity could somehow destroy these spheres, the Empire's power would be shattered. They could end the war before it even reached Earth. "We don't have a choice," Amir finally said. "We have to strike. If we wait, they'll rebuild. We need to act now." The plan was set in motion. A small, elite task force would infiltrate the Empire's core systems, targeting the Dyson spheres that powered their fleet. The task force would consist of the best fighters and scientists humanity had to offer, including a handful of rebel species who had joined the cause. Together, they would break through the Empire's outer defenses, infiltrate their most heavily guarded sectors, and plant the charges that would bring down the spheres. Captain Samuel Hayes was chosen to lead the operation. He knew the risk was almost certain death, but the chance to end the war was too great to ignore. "Once we're in, there's no turning back," he said to his team, standing in front of the command ship, Eclipse, a sleek vessel designed for the mission. "We get in, we plant the charges, and we get out. If we don't make it, then the rest of you carry on the fight." The task force set off, traveling deep into the heart of enemy space. As they approached the first Dyson sphere, the scale of the project became clear. The sphere was a colossal, world-sized structure, orbiting a star at the center of the Empire's most sacred system. Inside the sphere, everything was powered by the energy of the sun itself. The task force had only one shot. If they failed, the Empire would retaliate with unimaginable force. But if they succeeded, the war could be over in a single stroke. The turning point had arrived. The fate of the galaxy now rested in the hands of a small group of human soldiers and their allies. They would either destroy the Empire's heart or become martyrs in the fight for freedom. The journey into the heart of the Empire's territory had taken days, but for Captain Samuel Hayes and his elite task force, the time had felt like an eternity. As they neared the Dyson sphere, the gravity of their mission weighed heavily on them. The Empire's defenses were known to be formidable, and the chances of success were slim. But they had made it this far, and they knew they could not turn back. The Eclipse, their stealth ship, was the pinnacle of human engineering, capable of slipping past even the most advanced sensors. Yet, as they approached the outer edge of the Dyson sphere's protective perimeter, the sheer size of the structure took them by surprise. The sphere itself stretched millions of kilometers, encircling a sun that burned brightly in the center. It was a wonder of engineering, and yet for the task force, it was now the key to the Empire's destruction. "Remember, our goal is to plant the charges at the core of the sphere, where the energy is at its highest," Captain Hayes briefed his team, his voice calm but firm. "Once those charges go off, it will disrupt the entire system. We'll be on the clock the moment we hit the surface. We can't afford mistakes." The plan was simple but dangerous. The task force would infiltrate the sphere's outer defenses, bypass its security systems, and place high-tech explosive devices at the core. The mission was risky, but if they succeeded, the resulting energy release would cripple the Empire's fleet, rendering them powerless. As they neared the Dyson sphere, the task force could see the Empire's defenses surrounding it. Vast armadas of warships and automated drones patrolled the space around the sphere, ensuring that no one could get too close without being detected. The Eclipse expertly maneuvered through the shadows of the Empire's patrols, using every trick humanity had learned in the past months to avoid detection. "We're in," said Lieutenant Nadia Kruz, the ship's tactical officer, as she monitored the approach. "No sign of detection. We've made it to the outer layer." Captain Hayes nodded, his jaw tight. "Now we get to work." The team descended to the surface of the Dyson sphere, the gravity of their mission heavier than any physical weight. The exterior of the sphere was made of an impenetrable alloy, designed to withstand attacks and cosmic storms. The task force, using specialized tools, began the slow process of cutting through the outer layers. Inside, the environment was unlike anything they had ever experienced. The sphere's inner workings were a labyrinth of corridors, energy conduits, and power grids. Every step they took felt like walking through the heart of the Empire itself, as if they were intruding upon a sacred domain. It was hard to shake the feeling that they were being watched, even though the sphere seemed eerily silent. "We're close," Captain Hayes whispered, as they approached the central chamber where the core energy was stored. But as they rounded the corner, a sudden roar of alarm rang through the structure. "We've been detected," shouted one of the team members. "Prepare for contact." The Empire's automated security systems activated. Drones and war machines, equipped with deadly weapons, emerged from hidden doors. The task force had no time to waste. A fierce firefight erupted, with the soldiers moving with speed and precision. Their weapons blazed, cutting through the enemy forces as the countdown to the charge began. "We need more time," Captain Hayes shouted, his voice strained. "Hold them off, just a few more seconds." With the core in sight, they planted the explosive charges, each one designed to trigger a chain reaction that would destroy the Dyson sphere's power grid. But as the final charge was set, a massive explosion shook the entire structure. "We're out of time," Captain Hayes said, looking back at his team. "Let's move. Now." With the charges set, the task force raced back to the Eclipse. The explosions would soon destabilize the entire sphere, and their escape would have to be fast. The countdown had started. Either they would make it out, or this mission would be their last. The explosion that rocked the Dyson sphere was felt across the galaxy. The massive energy field surrounding the sun flickered, then began to collapse. In that instant, Captain Samuel Hayes and his task force knew their mission had been successful. The Empire's greatest source of power was now in jeopardy. But even as the sphere's core destabilized, the Empire's wrath was swift and unforgiving. Inside the Eclipse, the escape had become a race against time. The team barely had time to regroup before Lieutenant Nadia Kruz shouted, "We've got incoming." On the ship's sensors, dozens of Empire warships appeared, their engines roaring as they made a beeline toward the Eclipse. "We can't outrun them," Captain Hayes said, his voice tight with determination. "Prepare for battle." The Eclipse had been designed for stealth, not combat, and its weapons were minimal compared to the Empire's massive warships. But it was fast and maneuverable, and it would have to be enough. Hayes ordered his crew to fire the ship's limited arsenal, taking out any pursuing vessels. The Eclipse streaked through space, dodging incoming fire and evasive maneuvers in the chaos of the battle. "We've got to get through that blockade," Hayes shouted over the alarms blaring through the ship. The enemy had surrounded them, cutting off any chance of escape. The Empire was trying to trap them in the heart of their territory, where reinforcements would arrive in minutes. Dr. Elena Jung, who had been working tirelessly to help coordinate the mission's success, joined the captain on the bridge. We can't fight our way out. We need to make a run for it. I agree, Hayes said, eyes focused on the enemy forces. Get us into the gap between those two ships. Full speed ahead. With incredible precision, the Eclipse shot forward, dodging blasts from enemy weapons as it flew directly between two massive Empire warships. The maneuver was risky, but it gave them the small opening they needed. The ship's engines roared as they pushed the vessel past the blockade, speeding toward the outer reaches of the system. But the Empire wasn't going to let them escape that easily. Incoming fire from all sides. Crews yelled, monitoring the ship's sensors. The enemy warships were relentless, firing blast after blast as they pursued the Eclipse, intent on obliterating the small ship that had just caused the Empire so much chaos. Brace for impact, Hayes ordered. The Eclipse shuddered as blasts slammed into its shields. Sparks flew across the control panel, and warning lights flashed all around. The ship was taking hits, but the hull held strong. Barely. It was clear now that they couldn't sustain another direct hit. If they didn't escape soon, the ship would be destroyed. We need a diversion, Hayes muttered under his breath. A plan began to form in his mind. It was risky, too risky, but it might just give them the chance they needed. Get me the coordinates for the nearest star, he ordered Cruz. Within moments, she input the data. Hayes took a deep breath. We're going to use the star's gravity well to slingshot us out of here. It was a dangerous move, one that could end in disaster, but it was their only shot. The Eclipse angled toward the massive star ahead, using its gravity to accelerate to unimaginable speeds. As they approached the star's event horizon, the enemy ships followed, unaware of the trap they were walking into. With a final, desperate push, Hayes sent the ship flying toward the star at maximum speed. The Eclipse raced around the star's gravity well, gaining momentum in a perfect slingshot maneuver. The Empire ships, unable to calculate the sudden velocity change, overshot their target. In the blink of an eye, the Eclipse was free. The task force had escaped, but they had little time to celebrate. The Dyson sphere was collapsing, and the battle was far from over. The Empire would not forget this blow, and their revenge would be swift. But for now, Captain Hayes and his team had done the impossible. They had struck at the heart of the Empire and lived to tell the tale. The war was far from over, but the galaxy had seen that humanity was no longer the underdog. It was a force to be reckoned with. The galaxy had never known a war like this. The Empire, once thought unbeatable, was now struggling to hold on to its power. The destruction of the Dyson spheres had caused a ripple effect, one that shook the entire foundation of the Empire. Without their energy source, their fleets were powerless, their weapons useless. The Empire was crippled, and for the first time in generations, the galaxy could see a future without their tyrannical rule. Captain Samuel Hayes and his team returned to Earth as heroes, but their faces showed no signs of celebration. They knew the Empire would not fall so easily. While they had struck a mighty blow, the fight was far from over. They had proven humanity's strength, but now they had to ensure that this new hope didn't crumble under the weight of the Empire's revenge. We've taken down their core, General Emir Hassan said in a strategy meeting, his voice full of resolve. But the Empire will retaliate. We need to prepare for the next phase. Dr. Elena Zhang stood at the front, pointing to a holographic map of the galaxy. We've gained allies, but the Empire is vast. We need to strike while they're weak, before they can regroup. We can't let them rebuild. The war had shifted, and humanity was no longer on the defensive. The rebellion had grown, new alliances had formed, and the Empire now faced a united front. The once helpless humans had become a force to be reckoned with, and it was time to take the fight to the heart of the Empire. But as the preparations for the next battle were made, a message came through the rebel channels. A high-ranking officer from the Empire, one who had been secretly opposed to their ruthless ways, had offered an unprecedented opportunity, a chance for peace. I want to meet with you, the message read. The Empire is on the edge of collapse. I have a plan to bring an end to this war, but I need your trust." Captain Hayes, General Hassan, and Dr. Zhang were skeptical. Could this be a trap? Was this officer truly defecting, or was it a trick to lure humanity into a false sense of security? "I think we should listen to him," Dr. Zhang said, after a long pause. "The Empire is broken. If we don't act quickly, we risk chaos, and that could lead to worse outcomes than the Empire's rule." Captain Hayes agreed. "We'll meet him, but with caution. If this is a trap, we'll deal with it. But if he's telling the truth—" "If he's telling the truth," General Hassan finished, "then this could end the war without more bloodshed." The three of them, along with a small team, traveled to a neutral location far from the Empire's reach. There, they met with the defector, a young officer named Commander Renard, who had witnessed the cruelty of the Empire firsthand. "I never wanted this war," Commander Renard confessed. "I've seen the destruction we've caused, and I can't live with it anymore. The Empire is falling apart. We're on the edge of civil war. You've already crippled us. If you continue, you'll destroy us completely. But if we come to an agreement now, we can rebuild and create a future for everyone." It was a moment of decision. Captain Hayes, General Hassan, and Dr. Zhang stood in silence, weighing the offer. The rebellion had fought for so long, had given so much, but perhaps the end of the war was closer than they thought. After what felt like an eternity, Captain Hayes spoke. "We will negotiate, but the terms will be clear: peace, or we fight until every last one of you is defeated." And so, the galaxy stood at the edge of a new dawn. The war, though far from over, was on the brink of a resolution that no one had expected. Humanity had changed the course of history. They had fought for freedom, for survival, and in the end, they had forced the Empire to face its own downfall. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, there was hope. And that was more than enough to keep fighting for.